Okay. Something's going on here where I'm picking up this audio. Alright, that's better. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. Trying out this different camera setup. I have my monitor here. Oh my, it's crazy. I have my laptop camera here, showing my face. Oh, my hair does look very crazy, especially from the side. I have my laptop camera here, and I have my webcam here up in front of the tool. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm going to be having these more detailed moments with the paint, and I wanted to give a more close-up view of what I will be doing. Yeah, so today on the live stream, I am going to be re-Japanning this Stanley number 5. In the prelude to this video, I was cleaning up number 5, de-rusting it, doing all the steps that lead up to getting it into this condition that it is right now. And if you go back a little bit, you can see what condition this plane really was in before I got to it. So I have here the frog that I have cleaned up. I have de-rustified, and I have the body, which I have also cleaned up and de-rustified to the best of my ability. And if that takes us to the end and we still have a bit more time left, I have an iron that I have not de-rustified because I'm going to de-rustify it on the wire wheel, but I did put on a machined edge to the blade so that it'll be easier for me to sharpen later down the line. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Alright. Well, let's just jump into it. I hope also that this mic setup is a bit nicer. I have been noticing rewatching the videos that there's a lot of static and interference in the background of the videos. And I hope that this just makes it a little bit better with it being closer to my face. But it does look very close to my face now. So, if that is too loud, let me know. I'm still getting used to all this tech stuff. Okay. For this, I'm going to be using this pre-made Japanning. You can get this on a site called aplanelife.org or .net. It's not .com, but the guy makes it himself, pre-mixes it, and it's about $25 after shipping to get this tin. It also includes instructions on how to de-enamel your tools to get them ready to be painted. The process of Japanning is pretty simple once you get used to it. It's pretty much putting this nail polish type substance that we're going to be working with right now and putting that completely on the plane in all the places that are not going to be being used when the plane is in action. So I'm not going to put any on the sole of it. I'm not going to put any on the sides. On these parts where the frog meets the body, I'm not going to put any there. Same with the frog itself. I'm going to be putting it in these little grooves, but I'm not going to put any where the frog meets the iron or any on my lateral adjuster, any on these bottom places where the frog meets the body. That's pretty much the only places that are not going to get the Japanning. Also, a little bit more of an update on this hand plane. This is a Stanley Type 18, which I think was made sometime in the 50s to 60s. I'm not totally clear. And last night I actually went back, and there's this layer of black paint that completely covered these handles. They are a pretty light wood, either pine or cherry, and they stand out because in comparison to some of the older planes, this Stanley Sweetheart that have this beautiful rosewood, and that's usually the wood that people are looking after. It feels really great in your hand. It's solid, it's sturdy, it feels dense, feels like it can take the wear of being used and taking the wear of being a good hand tool for a long period of time. But they're not really transferable, as you can kind of see here. The tote would slide around if I decided to use it like that. So I will restore these to the best of my ability and try to get them all fit up. Put a layer of some beeswax or some boiled linseed oil on it. I also still have kind of cold. I've been coughing up phlegm for like 2 weeks now. But it is seemingly clearing up. I'm also going to be painting this frog from the Stanley Sweetheart. I painted the base of it yesterday, put it through the whole oven drying process. I'm going to paint this one today and put it in with the batch for these 2 pieces. Okay, well, get right. I'm gonna do this quick. Fiber cloth, which I seem to have lost. Oh, never mind. It's right there. It's right next to me. So the first thing I'm gonna do before I start painting is take my microfiber cloth. Take a little bit of acetone, little for that finger, a little for me, and I'm just gonna kind of get in there and wipe off the corners, inside, try to clear off any dust that I could have accumulated while it was just sitting around. And right now, at this moment, I don't have any fans or any kind of air filtration going on in the house right now because I want to keep this area as dust free as possible. So that when I paint this, I don't end up with little dust spots. And I think there is going to be just dust spots and grooves naturally. I'm completely able to eliminate that as a possibility, but I'm going to do my very, very best. Okay. So you'll see me hunched over, probably like this, a lot hiding behind my mic. That is just the way it's gonna be. Alright. Start going then. So, I'm actually gonna talk about the history of Japanning today, while I am working on re-Japanning this tool. And yeah, you can see this is just this inky, dark substance. It doesn't really stain your hands as far as I could tell because it takes so long to dry. It kind of just sits on your skin, and if you take a little soap and water, it comes right off. To get this to actually cure, you either have to let it sit for months and months and months and let it dry completely on its own, or you can put it in an oven and cook it for a bit at about 200 degrees and then let it cool, and then cook it again for like 3 hours at like 400 degrees. Right now I have a toaster oven set up in the back, and that's what's doing all my Japanning, all my cooking. Yeah, it does have a bit of a scent to it when it's cooking, but it airs out pretty quickly. Alright. Just gonna get started. Once I finish this, I'm gonna take it out into the backyard and let it sit inside the toaster oven where it'll be more dust proof, protected. Actually, the first one I'm going to work on is going to be one of the corner pieces because it's in the oven. Start with Stanley Sweetheart. So you might notice on this, compared to some of the other frogs that I've worked on, that the chip breaker, the Y yolk, sorry, is still attached. I just could not get it off. I spent a while just kind of trying to tap this pin and work it off, but I really just couldn't get it to come off. So here it is, still on there, and I really couldn't get this paint to come off either. I'm just gonna paint right onto it. I don't think it's gonna cause a problem. Okay, I'm gonna try to avoid this pin though as much as I can because I don't want to create like a new layer of hello. Yep. That's some new comments. Yeah, we're done with the cleaning time. We are on to the painting. And like I said in the beginning, you're going to be seeing my head hidden behind this a lot in this video. So, Japanning, term Japanning, it doesn't actually come from Japan. Japanning, at least in this way that I am doing it right now, where it's a mix of acetone, boiled linseed oil, and asphaltum, and asphaltum powder is actually an imitation from Europe in the 17th century. So pretty much as Europe was discovering Japan and all the different art styles that Japan was offering at the time, it became this item of luxury, that these different pieces and art style that Japan was producing was this status symbol. And they found that the nicest of these status symbols was actually being kept by the Japanese, and it was not being shared with the Europeans that were colonizing, that were kind of introducing their culture. So what Europeans did at the time is they basically tried to mimic it and recreate the formula. The problem was that the original formula uses this sap that is native to a Japanese tree, but it did not grow well in Europe, so they were not able to completely recreate the formula. But instead they found a makeshift new formula that could be widely produced. And so for a long time this was kind of used as a slow drying oil paint, because when you would paint with it, you had a lot of time to adjust it because it would take about 2 months before it would completely set. And when it did set, it would be this very rich black enamel color. So you can kind of see here in the light, actually the light is doing it justice. It almost has this reddish, kind of brown red hue. Yeah, it doesn't really come across in the light, but it has this brown red hue, and when it finally dries, it just looks onyx black. So with that, it started being used for art. Yeah, I'm having a hard time concentrating on what I'm talking about and also painting. Just trying to get these little fine details. Really trying not to get any of the enamel on any of these screws. Especially not getting able to get this lever cap out. I don't want to get the pin that's in there covered. Just want to get all this other stuff. These other pieces that are kind of prone to rusting. And I think this tool did have the original Japanning on it. And the reason I think that is because as I've been looking into this, the way that a lot of these tools were made was the manufacturer would basically just take the entire tool, and once all like the main pieces were put into place, they would just dunk the entire thing in a vat Japanning, and that's how they were able to mass produce these pieces without somebody coming in here with a brush. They could just dunk the whole piece and be done with it. So I'm not going to do that because it's not my vibe. And also, I don't have vats of Japanning all about here. So, as I said before, I'm going to avoid areas where the frog touches the base of the tool. Try to draw some clear lines here. Keep that in the light. I also realized from the first time I really don't want any of the Japanning to pool. When it starts to pool, it will kind of gather in these grooves, and I've noticed that when it's heating, it heats differently than the other paint or the other Japanning, and kind of left a bubble. And so for this one, I'm really not wanting to get any grooves. Instead, I'm going to go with a medium light coat, and if I am not satisfied with the color, I can just put another coat on there and continue to add layers until I am happy with the way it looks. So, as I was saying, Japanning was used more as an artistic medium rather than a utilitarian one. People weren't really using it to protect tools or anything like that. It was more for art pieces because of the stunning color that it produced. As time went on, there became other methods of sticking dark material or paint to different metals, and Japanning kind of fell out of practice. Oops, dropped it there. It kind of fell out of practice, especially as an artistic form. Instead, machinists took it over, especially large manufacturers of large tools or automobiles, large like metal working pieces. It became this cheap way to protect tools from rusting. Kind of like what I'm doing now is because the reason why I'm putting all this on this tool is so that I can protect it from rusting. I don't want this to I don't want it to rust in the simplest terms, but I'm putting the Japanning on the parts that are not going to get much movement and are not going to really see the light of day that much. And so if I forget to clean this for a year, this part I can sand down. It's meant to be sanded down, but these other parts are not really meant to be sanded down. Oh, I got a little piece of dust there. And so this Japanning basically, instead of it being a metal bit that's going to rust, it'll just be this smooth polished piece that I can just wipe off with a rag if any moisture is on there. And so it'll give this tool a lot more life and longevity. If I get any that I don't, any in places that I don't want to get it, I will just wipe it off with a rag. But oh yeah, like right there, right at the tip. Just gonna take a Q-tip and bloop, wipe it away. I'm gonna sand down this whole front anyways, but for now, this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, I'm gonna take this over to the oven and we're gonna get on the next piece. I'm not gonna do this. Oh, I am gonna actually kind of get in here. Oh, I missed a spot. It's no good. Flip on over. Okay. So I'll get the rest of this on the second coat because I am going to put a second coat on this piece. But for now, I'm going to walk this over to the oven, which is outside. I'll be right back. Okay, and this is actually what it looks like when it's completely set. This has been cooling in the oven. I finished this piece this morning, and it is this hard, very nail polished, finished surface. And this is from the Winchester, which, if you've been following along with the videos, is the plane. Just gonna this. Whoop. Which is this body right here. But because I don't want to use my inside oven, I'm actually gonna try to use my grill outside and try to be able to control that at 200 degrees, then 400 degrees after that. But we'll see how that goes. It's gonna be an experiment. The thing is, unless I overcook the metal and melt it, it looks a lot better than it did. I'm really happy how it came out on this one. I think this tool is going to look fantastic when it's done, but I also still have to make the new handles, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So I am going to be using the grill. Thanks. Yep, it's painting time. To Japan the next one. Okay. Hair still looks crazy. Gonna take a drink of water. Get into this. Yum. Okay, let's see. Where was I? I was talking about the history of Japanning. Oh yeah, it started being used as a more utilitarian mode of covering tools, and it was used by a couple different companies, and it started becoming this thing where craftsmen would have to learn the skill of Japanning as part of their trade skills. And sorry, I'm trying to remember. I read all this stuff this morning, trying to figure out some things I could talk about for Japanning. And now it's all eluding me as I'm kind of falling into the rhythm of painting this piece. But it was a skill that craftsmen had to learn to protect their tools, to restore tools in workshops, just because everything was Japanned. And eventually that did fall out of practice as different ways of protecting the tools became more widespread. Somebody's cooking here. Yeah, it does feel weird to put metal blocks into the oven. It's definitely a weird sensation, but I did get this toaster oven at a thrift store for a few dollars, so even if it does destroy the oven, I'm pretty okay with it. But it does feel like a very strange way of cooking. And so for a while it kind of fell out of practical use because for the most part, cars, instead of having the normal car paint that you see on today, they would completely Japan the whole thing, and that would help it prevent rust. But the problem is, like anything, Japanning does begin to fail over time, and so if a little bit of this surface that I create starts to crack, then moisture will set underneath it and pretty much destroy the tool from the inside out. And destroy is maybe a strong term. If you're kind of watching the video beforehand, you saw that there was these layers of Japanning that almost looked like they were peeling off from the bed of this hand plane, and that's what it looks like. There must have been a crack or something in the Japanning, and a little bit of moisture and a little bit of rust got underneath it and led to the eventual cracking of the enamel and that layer of rust that came from. Okay. So Japanning was an art form, and then it was a practice for utilitarian use of protecting tools. And then at some point, it kind of became a luxury again. And this was kind of in the 1900s. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard about sunbeam bikes. It's this, how much time from paint to cured paint? It takes about 6 hours, and that's with the heat treatment. So what I do is I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes after I finish painting it, because the Japanning has this very strong ability to self-level, and even though it looks all wrinkly now, you can kind of see in the light, after about 20 minutes it'll be this flat surface that's more fine with this piece here. You can see there are some grooves where there's imperfections in the metal, but for the most part it is a flat surface. So the Japanning will level itself out and flatten, and then after that I will preheat an oven to 200 or I'll heat up an oven to 200 degrees with the parts inside of it already, and let them sit there for 2 hours. After that, I'll let the oven and the pieces cool for about an hour, and then I will heat the oven to 300 degrees for 30 minutes, and then 400 degrees for 2 hours, and then I'll go up to about 450 for another 30 minutes to an hour. Then after that, I will leave it in the oven and let it cool completely before taking it out in the oven so it slow cools. And that will leave me with a solid surface and a newly protected tool. So the last time that I know of Japanning being used in commercial ways that were more artistic based was for the Sunbeam bicycles. And the reason why they're called Sunbeam is because of the Japanning itself. So when the bikes were being protected, they decided to go with Japanning to hold back the rust. And it was a husband and wife team that were working on it that designed the bikes, and the wife basically said that in the light the enamel reflects the light and it looks like sunbeams, and from there the company Sunbeam Bikes was born. And so today, Japanning is not really a practice that is used on any modern tools. It is really just something that is used on these older model hand planes and older model hand tools. And even I don't have any. I've been selling some of my old tools on eBay, and I did have a Stanley that's more from the modern era, and instead of having this Japanning on it, it did just have kind of some sort of what looked like automotive paint. And so it seems like the modern day does not really use Japanning. Probably because it is not the most efficient in terms of resources, and I don't know if tool manufacturers are super stoked on the jet black look. Now it doesn't really stand out like your DeWalt's or your Makitas or your Milwaukee's with the bright colors. And so with that, maybe it has just died. Sorry, I'm out of frame. It's just died in popularity. But I do love my DeWalt's with their bright yellow. But I also do love my old vintage tools with this timeless look. It's also just very relaxing to restore these things. It can be kind of frustrating sometimes, especially the way that I restore them is I'll start by cleaning them up in some soapy water, getting all the grime and all the dirt off of the tool, and then I will use some seri strip, which is a paint stripper, and I will let that sit on the tool for about 6 hours. Any more than that, and I find that starts to stain the tool a bit, so 6 hours seems to be the right amount. And I'll let it sit on there for 6 hours, clean it off again with soap and water, and at that point the seri strip does have some moisture on it, and so it'll rust a bit of the tool. And then I let the whole tool sit in a vinegar bath for about 5 hours. That clears off pretty much all the rust. And then I just take some steel wool and clean off any last bits of rust that are on the tool. Okay, seems to be pretty much good. Right, turn it around so I can see. better. Oh wow, I missed a whole section in there. No one told me. Looking good. Hey, thanks. Feels good. I wish I just took a general picture of what this tool looked like before I started working on it. I think I did, but it's on my phone. It's not really straightforward to get that transferred onto the computer, especially while I am doing the live stream. But oh yeah, you see, like right here, I definitely added too much. I'm gonna try to get in here and just clear off that. This part right here will just be a pain in the butt to clean up later. So I really don't want to be dealing with that, especially when I want that to be one of the most solid locations, because that's where the frog is going to connect. Powder coating. See? That's what I was thinking about. Powder coating. That's the stuff. There's also one where it's like tin plating. Does anyone know anything about that? Maybe. I'm playing this for a kitten and he liked it so much he fell asleep. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. But it's meant to be relaxing. I'm not trying to do anything too exciting in these videos. It's just a little bit of history about what I'm working with and something that's kind of calming, at least calming for me, which is restoring hand planes. So something I did experience is I think I'm going to be able to break even, because I talked about it a few weeks ago or last week. I had this kind of feverish reaction to finding out about eBay and hand planes, and I just went on a rampage and I bought about 20 old hand planes, and I've started selling them back on eBay, and the price that I was selling them for, I was making a slight profit, just a few dollars. Wasn't really expecting to make anything, but because eBay charges a 13% fee on orders, I actually ended up I'm breaking even, it seems like. And so I wasn't really expecting to make money. This is just like a fun thing for me to do to restore tools. But I did find out that eBay is brutal on the reselling market. Something to watch out for if you ever decide to use eBay, is you will be having to mark it up and raise the price to meet the taxes that are imposed from the site. And I have to kind of be a little bit stealthy about it, especially if I start to sell a lot of them as a private business owner, because if I get taxed on selling from eBay 13%, and then I get taxed as a small business owner in California another 20%, and then there's just sales tax that I pay for, it might end up being actually more detrimental to sell these than it is just to hold on to them. So I might just have to hold on to them. Oh no. I saw a little hair in there. There it is. You little sneaker. Get out of here. I also don't have the nicest quality of brushes, so I've already... Ah! Does that come out on the camera? Yeah, it does. Look at that. Little hair from my brush. I've already done this once where my brush has left a little hair, and that is on there for the foreseeable future because I'm not going back re-stripping the entire tool and re-enameling it. Not now. But that's on a tool that is my own personal one that I've refurbished. So, I'm not worried about it. No one has to know. You'll never find it. Okay, so I have this, I have that. I'm going to take a little bit of acetone. For me, and a little for the tool. Don't drink acetone, it's not good for you. That was a joke. For those of you watching the tiny little video up in the corner. Don't take it seriously. The acetone is really the only thing that works to get this off, at least get it off cleanly. You can just wipe it off, but if I want sharp, distinct lines, I want sharp, distinct lines. Okay, this piece has its first coat. Authenticity. Are you talking about the hair? Gotta go put it in the oven. Okay, everyone say goodbye. Goodbye. I'm gonna go cook in the oven for 5 hours. Wow, time is flying. It's already 6:50. I got one more piece to go. Okay. On to the frog. So, this frog right here, the Y yolk doesn't really have any Japanning on it, unlike the other one. So I'm going to keep this one pretty clean. Try to just get the Japanning on all like the different corners. Work around this piece, try to get it up in these little grooves. I could not get this pin out of this one as well. And the reason why I am not going to like yard on these pieces is because this is cast iron and it's not. So the difference, like what I'm relating this to is there's cast iron and then there's sheet metal, then there's folded sheet metal and plated and yada yada yada, all these different methods. Basically what this is they had a template and they poured molten metal into that form and it created this piece here, and then they added all the other pieces. They machined in these grooves and bored out these holes and ended up with this piece here. And you can see these kind of imperfections where there may have been bubbles in the metal, but pretty much that means that it's really strong in just force, but in just like general pulling and pushing force, but it is not very shock absorbent as a piece. If I dropped this, there is a high probability that it would crack or shatter, and that goes the same with getting out these pins. It's just this tiny little lip that protects the pin or holds the pin in place, and one bad swing of the hammer, I could hit my driver into the wrong part of this piece and completely ruin this entire part of the tool. And any metal worker, any welder will also tell you that cast iron is extremely difficult to repair. The problem with cast iron is that, unlike folded metal, sheet metal, or anything like that, when you heat up a part of the metal, the entire piece tends to expand and contract, kind of like an entire organism. So say if I cracked off this piece, if I wanted to weld it, I could heat up the entire piece and weld that back on. But if this wasn't heated up completely uniform, as it cooled and the metal began to shrink again, that joint that I just created would cool at a different rate and would probably just crack off. And so you can try to repair cast iron, but it takes a very skilled metal worker to be able to repair it in a way that is actually going to last. And I don't think there are many metal workers that work with cast iron anymore. And so, since this piece is very difficult to replace, I am just not going to mess with it. Sorry about that. I'm just going to send a quick text message. Boop. And then we'll get into this. I'm going to be on here for another 15 minutes-ish. I am glad you are back. Let's paint this thing up. Let's get in the oven. So hopefully, if I start this process by the end of this video, this can all be done before midnight. My little toaster oven outside has a timer on, has an on button and a timer that goes up to 60 minutes. And so, worst comes to worst, I will just wait till 11 o'clock, turn that timer on for 60 minutes, and then go to bed. But these are the woes of the tool repairman. They aren't woes. I love doing this. Who am I kidding? I'll just be playing video games with my friends anyways. Okay, here we go with the last piece of Japanning for the night. Okay. Is this zoomed in enough? I can zoom in more. I can zoom in more. Now I really zoomed. That's as zoomed in as I can go. And not to overflow. I also think that the desert is a really good place to restore these tools. They say you're supposed to keep the plane about 70, or the piece you're re-Japanning around 70 to 80 degrees while you are working on it, and in an environment that is as dry as possible. And so right now in the summer, zoom. So right now in the summer is the saving grace of learning how to work with this medium, this type of material, because I have a lot of, it's very forgiving in the heat. It sets really well. It self-levels really well. And I'm ending up with these beautiful refurbishments. And looking online, I am seeing people, it seems like a lot of people on the East Coast or up in Canada do a lot of refurbishments as well. And it's kind of hit or miss whether or not they're their refurbs actually go well, and I think that's just because they live in areas with more moisture. A lot of them use the same guy at Plain Life, really the only person that's making Japanning. And so it seems to be the difference. So I am glad I live in the desert as someone who has found so much joy in refurbishing these old tools. That being said, it is very hot. Okay, this entire side panel right here. Japanning is also a non-toxic paint. It seems like it should be toxic. It's toxic if you eat it. It's got acetone in it, but it seems like it should be more toxic than it is, even inhaling it, but it's not. As long as you're in a well-ventilated area, you don't need a respirator, anything like that. Doesn't really have a scent or an odor. I wouldn't stick my head like really breathing the fumes when it's cooking in the oven, but it's not going to hurt you. Maybe irritate your throat a little bit. Not like other things I work with, like the paint thinners or the seri strip, which I wear a ventilator when I work with them. Seri strip is said to be non-toxic, but I don't really believe that because it definitely seems to burn my eyes a bit. Oh, I'm out of frame. Sorry about that, everyone. There it is. Now we're back in frame again. Back in frame. Doing gentle painting. Trying to keep all the Japan on the piece. If this little pin gets put up, I don't mind. A little bit in there. A little bit over there. Knock this thing over. And just working around this bolt. Very precise. Wow, I really can't talk at the same time that I do that piece. Okay, we're good. We're out of the woods. It is cleared up. Yeah, I don't really want to get Japanning on the bolts, because I want my adjuster to run very smoothly. But if a little bit gets on there, it's not really. Just as long as I'm not dousing the whole thing. Are you singing and painting? I don't know. Was I singing and painting? I was very focused. Really did not want to get any paint on the bolt. I think there's a high probability that I was singing and painting. I sing and do a lot of stuff. Singing and painting and painting and singing. Oh, I forgot that it's painted. Okay, what do we got? I'm gonna try to get this all. I'm gonna just try to work these little corners here. Oh, this is gonna be a mess. Oh no, I'm all over the place. Ah. It's okay, it's okay. I'm just gonna keep telling myself that it's okay. Oh, it's not okay. Oh. You know, I'll come back, I'll sand it. Y'all have seen me do that before. It's gonna be fine. Get a little in there. It doesn't become like this rock solid diamond material. It still can be sanded. It just feels like hard nail polish, or a resin. And so it can still be sanded down. It's not the end all be all of protecting a piece of metal. But I still don't want to be sanding through like a whole chunk of it, but geez, my painting hand really suffered on this one. Not sit well. Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to clean this up well until I get it sanded, so I'm throwing caution to the wind here. We'll see how it turns out. Okay. And I'll get this piece more when I do my second coat. Try to get up in here. Yep. Get up in there. Okay. I'll paint it up if I missed any spots. That's okay. So there will be more time. Just like most of woodworking, if I make a huge mistake, it's probably going to be okay. I'll have another opportunity. Okay, I'm going to throw this in the oven real quick. Back. Oh, water down. Oh. Oh. Spill water. Ah. Okay, I'm moving this mic a little bit. Down. It's on here. Zooming back out. By zoom. Ooh, zooming back in. Oh. And that aside. This is my reason. Alright. And turn this video capture. Nope, not that video capture off. This video capture off. Turn this camera over here. And sit back. Okay. Hey. Like close the camera right now. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for hearing about Japanning. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a new skill and also something that I'm just trying to so many things in wood. It's all it's connected to me. These tools are gonna be really solid and really together when they be refurbished. One thing I am working on as I am refurbishing these tools is trying to not take away the wear they have gotten over the years. So this one here, there are still chips in it, and I could take this down to polished silver metal. I do like the look of that kind of just aged metal with a tool that is 110 years old. That's part of why I'm using Japanning and not some of the more modern techniques like hardening paints, is because this feels authentic to how these tools were originally made. And it seems to me that it honors that tradition, how the tools were originally cared for and what they are used for. Figure out my lighting system eventually. Literally just have light bulbs on strings that carry around. So that's how I light everything. Studio. Next or this Thursday, I'm gonna be continuing with my wood carving episodes. So I've got this chess set that I am working on. While y'all are gone, I worked on this little owl. Isn't it so cute? And I have some wood carving tools coming in the mail that I found on eBay these days. So I can also learn in the meantime how to sharpen a curved blade. Something I don't know how to do. But I'll be working on owls, giving a little bit of history on that. Maybe jumping into a little bit about jackrabbits out in the desert. And if there is time, hopefully working on a design for our rooks, because this did not work out, but y'all put a lot of good suggestions in for the rooks from last episode, and that's what I'll be working on this Thursday. So if you're interested in joining for that and seeing some wood carving and talking about some animals, join in this Thursday at 6 to 7 p.m. I will be carving up some wood and talking about critters. And I'm going to call it Critters and Carving. Tool Time Tuesday and Critters and Carving. But that is it for the live stream tonight. So that signing off. But I still haven't figured out the fade out. There's this weird kind of limbo where if I log off, it stops for everybody. All are like 10 seconds behind me. So I'm just gonna stop talking. Thumbs up. And then I'm just gonna sit here silent. 10 seconds. Saying goodnight. Oh, also, like, subscribe, share. You know all the drills. You've heard it from a billion other YouTubers. Alright.